My name is Lila Everett. I'm 34, and I worked my butt off for 10 years to buy my dream penthouse in Seattle. Every late night, every skipped vacation, every dollar I scraped together went into that place. It's not just a home, it's proof I made it all on my own. My parents, Marlo and Jet, never got that. To them, I'm the screw-up kid who didn't follow their playbook, while my older brother Declan is their golden boy hobnobbing with rich folks and living the high life. So when I found out they were planning a swanky party at my penthouse to impress some big-shot investors without even asking me, I was floored. They thought they could just walk all over me like always, but this time, I changed the locks before their big night and turned their world upside down. Let me tell you how this whole mess started. I've always been the odd one out in my family. Growing up, Declan was the star captain of the lacrosse team prom king, the guy who could charm anyone. He went into PR after college, built a career schmoozing with wealthy clients, and married Tessa, this Instagram influencer with 1 million followers. My parents ate it up. They'd brag about his connections at every family dinner like he was some kind of celebrity. I was the quiet kid who'd rather code than go to parties. After college, I didn't have a trust fund or a fancy network. I had student loans and a laptop. So I started small freelancing as a coder, taking gigs nobody else wanted. I lived in a cramped apartment with a leaky ceiling for 7 years, saving every penny while I built my startup, a budgeting app called Pennywise. It was brutal. I'd work 16-hour days fueled by instant noodles and Red Bull pitching to investors who barely gave me the time of day. My parents thought I was wasting my life. "Lila, why don't you get a real job?" my mom Marlo would say, slicing her chicken at our monthly dinners. "Look at Declan managing campaigns for CEOs. That's stability." My dad Jet would nod like I was some lost cause. "You're 34, Lila. Stop chasing pipe dreams." They never asked about my app, not even when it started getting traction. 3 years ago, everything changed. Pennywise went viral after a finance influencer raved about it on TikTok. Downloads skyrocketed, investors came knocking, and I closed a 7-figure funding round. I was shaking when I signed the deal. At 31, I'd done it, built something from nothing. That's when I bought my penthouse. It's not some gaudy mansion, but it's mine. Top floor, downtown Seattle, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a rooftop garden, I turned into my own little oasis. I picked every detail: the sleek white countertops, the smart lighting, the cozy sectional where I crash after long days. It took 2 years to make it perfect, and I paid for it all with my own money. Did my family care? Nope. At the open house I hosted last year, my dad walked in, glanced around, and said, "Hope you didn't get ripped off. This area's overpriced." My mom gave me a half smile and handed me a $10 wine bottle, the kind you'd grab at a gas station. Declan and Tessa showed up late, took a quick selfie in my living room, and left before dessert. "Cute place," Tessa said like she was patting a kid on the head. "Very minimalist." I kept the peace anyway. I showed up to Declan's over-the-top networking events, sat through my mom's lectures about how I should settle down, and hosted Christmas last year, even though nobody helped with the dishes. I thought if I kept trying, they'd eventually see me. Then 2 weeks ago, everything fell apart. I'd just landed a huge deal. Pennywise was partnering with a major bank to integrate our app into their platform. It was the biggest win of my career, a game changer. I was buzzing when I walked into our family dinner at my parents' house, ready to share the news. But before I could open my mouth, my mom was already gushing about Declan. "He's organizing this incredible gala for the Sterling family," she said, her eyes sparkling. "You know the Sterling's old money, huge in real estate. It's a big deal for his career." Declan leaned back in his chair, smirking. "Yeah, it's a chance to lock in some investors for my next project. The Sterlings are bringing their whole circle, people with serious cash." Tessa chimed in, scrolling through her phone. "I'm curating the vibe. Think black tie, rooftop elegance." I nodded, waiting for a pause to mention my deal. It never came. My dad started talking about how their real estate business was struggling, and how Declan's gala could save the family name. I sat there picking at my mashed potatoes, feeling like I was invisible. Finally, I cleared my throat. Hey, I've got some news too. Pennywise just signed with. That's great, honey. My mom cut me off, not even looking up. Declan, tell Lila about the catering. It's this Michelin star chef, isn't it? And just like that, I was shut down. Declan launched into a 15-minute rant about caviar and custom cocktails while my parents hung on his every word. I gave up, ate my pie, and planned to bolt early. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from my cousin Sienna. Lila, what's going on? Your mom posted about some gala at your penthouse next weekend. She's calling it the Everett Family Estate. Thought you'd want a heads up. I froze my fork halfway to my mouth. My penthouse A gala. I opened Instagram, and there it was. My mom's account, usually full of her garden club photos, had a glossy digital invite. The background was a picture of my rooftop garden, the one I'd spent months planting with string lights twinkling over my teak furniture. The caption read, "Join us at the Everett Family Estate for an evening of elegance and opportunity. Hosted by Marlowe and Jet Everett in partnership with the Sterling Group. Exclusive invitations only." My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the comments. Strangers I'd never met were raving about how they couldn't wait to see the Everett legacy in person. Declan had even commented, "A night to remember at our family's crown jewel." I looked across the table at my parents, who were laughing with Declan about some guest list drama. My stomach twisted. They hadn't said a word to me. Not one. They were planning to use my home, the place I'd poured my heart and savings into, like it was their personal venue, and they didn't even think to ask. I felt the anger bubbling up hot and sharp, but I kept it together. I excused myself, grabbed my coat, and drove straight home. That night, sitting on my couch staring at the city lights through my windows, I realized this wasn't just about a party. It was about years of being treated like I didn't matter, like my life was some footnote in their story. I wasn't going to let it slide this time. Not my home, not my rules. I was still reeling from that Instagram post, sitting there in my penthouse, my phone screen burning a hole in my hand, with that picture of my rooftop garden plastered all over my mom's account. My home, my sanctuary, was being advertised as the Everett Family Estate for some gala I didn't even know about. I couldn't just sit there and stew. I needed to know how far this went, so I started digging, and what I found made my blood run cold. By the end of that day, I wasn't just mad, I was ready to draw a line in the sand. I opened my laptop and went straight to my mom's email because she's notorious for forwarding things to me by mistake. Sure enough, there was an email from 3 days ago, subject line, "Sterling Gala details from some event planner named Freya Holt." I clicked it, and my stomach twisted. It was a detailed plan for the party at my penthouse caterers showing up at 9 a.m. A bartender mixing signature cocktails on my rooftop, even a note about opening the main floor for guest tours to showcase the Everett legacy. Tours of my living room. The email mentioned Tessa, my brother Declan's wife, coordinating the vibe, and ended with Marlowe confirmed Tessa has the spare key for our team to access the space tomorrow. Spare key? I didn't give anyone a spare key. My hands were shaking as I reread it, realizing they'd planned this behind my back like I was some nobody tenant. I called my mom right away. She answered on the fourth ring, sounding distracted. "Lila, I'm with the caterer. Can this wait?" I didn't let her off the hook. "No, it can't. Why's there a gala planned at my penthouse? And what's this about Tessa having a key?" She sighed like I was overreacting. "Lila, calm down. It's just one night. The Sterlings are big players and we need this to save our business. Your place is the only one nice enough to pull it off. We figured you wouldn't mind." Wouldn't mind? I felt like I'd been punched. "Mom, it's my home. You don't get to decide what happens here. And you gave Tessa a key." She got quiet, then said, "Well, yes. She needed to let the planners in. We had a copy from when you bought the place. It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal." I was furious, my voice shaking. "You had no right to do that. That's my property, my life. You can't just hand out keys like it's your house. She snapped back. Lila, stop being so selfish. This is for the family. Declan's worked hard to get the Sterlings on board, and your dad and I are counting on this. Just let it happen. I tried to argue, but she cut me off. The planners are coming by this afternoon. Be there to let them in. Okay. She hung up before I could respond. I stood there gripping my phone, feeling like my whole world was spinning out of control. I called my dad next, hoping he'd see reason. No such luck. Lila, your mom told me you're upset. He said, his tone all business. This gala is a make or break for us. The Sterlings could turn our company around. Your penthouse is the perfect venue. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I pushed back. Dad, it's my home. I didn't agree to this. You can't use it without asking. He got irritated. You're sitting in that fancy place all alone. What's one party? Declan's already sent the invites. It's happening. I hung up my chest tight with anger. They weren't listening. They didn't care. I texted my cousin Sienna, who'd tipped me off about the post. What else do you know? She replied fast. Your parents are freaking out about their business tanking. They think this gala will get the Sterlings to invest. Tessa's been posting about it nonstop, acting like it's her event. Check her Instagram. I opened Tessa's account, and there it was, a slick video of my rooftop captioned, "Ready to host the Sterling Gala at the Everett Estate. This is gonna be epic." My home was being used as a backdrop for her influencer brand, and I was the last to know. Then my phone pinged with a security alert. I'd set up cameras when I moved in just to be safe. I opened the app and saw freaking Tessa standing at my door with a woman in a suit trying a key in my lock. I hit the intercom. Tessa, what the hell are you doing? She jumped, then laughed nervously. Oh, Lila. Hey, I'm just showing Freya the space for the gala. Your mom said it was cool. I was livid. It's not cool. I didn't authorize this. Get out of there now. Tessa rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic and said, Relax, it's just a quick look. Freya looked embarrassed and muttered an apology as they left. I watched them walk away, my heart racing. I sat down trying to process it, and that's when an old memory hit me like a brick. 5 years ago, when I was scraping by to build Pennywise, my parents asked to borrow $15,000 from my savings. They said it was to keep their real estate business afloat after a bad deal. I gave it to them even though it meant delaying my app's launch. They promised to pay me back, but they never did. Later, I found out they'd funneled most of it to Declan to fund his PR firm's fancy office. They'd taken my money, my future, and handed it to him without a second thought. I'd let it go, thinking it was just family helping family. But now, seeing them treat my home the same way, it felt like a betrayal all over again. I called my best friend Kira, who's always been my rock. They did what she said, her voice rising when I told her about the key and the gala. Lila, that's not just disrespectful, that's crossing a line. They're acting like your penthouse is their property. I spilled everything, the email, Tessa at my door, the $15,000. You need to talk to Holden, she said. Holden Bryce. Our lawyer friend knows tech and property law inside out. Figure out your options. And come stay with me tonight. I don't trust them not to show up again. I packed a bag, my mind racing, and headed to Kira's. As I drove, my phone buzzed with a text from Declan. Heard you're mad about the gala. It's not a big deal, Lila. Let it go. We're doing this for all of us. I stared at the message, my anger hardening into something else, resolve. I wasn't letting this go. Not this time. Declan's text was still burning in my brain as I pulled into Kira's driveway, my fingers tight around the steering wheel. Let it go, he'd said, like my penthouse was just some Airbnb they could borrow for their gala. After everything, my parents handing Tessa a key, them taking my $15,000 years ago, treating me like I didn't matter, I was done. No more playing nice. I wasn't going to let them walk all over me, not in my own home. That night, I made a plan to shut this whole thing down, and by the time the gala rolled around, I'd turned their perfect party into a complete disaster. I got to Kira's place and spilled everything over a glass of wine. She was furious for me. Lila, they're acting like your penthouse is their personal stage, she said, pacing her living room. You need to take control. Call Holden. I dialed Holden Bryce, our lawyer friend, and put him on speaker. I told him about the gala, the key, the email from Freya. Let me get this straight, he said, his voice calm but firm. Your parents planned a major event at your property, without your consent gave out a key, and are letting strangers into your home. That's not just a family fight, that's a legal violation. You own that penthouse outright. They have no claim to it. You can secure your property any way you see fit, like changing the locks. I hesitated. I don't want to call the cops on my family. He got it. You don't have to. New Lock's a better security system that's enough to stop them. If anyone tries to force their way in, you've got grounds for trespassing charges. Hearing Holden lay it out like that made it real. This wasn't me being petty, it was about protecting what I'd built. Kira jumped in. Lila, you've let them push you around for years. Remember when they made you pay for Declan's car repair because he needed it for work? Or when your mom volunteered you to host their anniversary party and didn't even thank you? This is your line in the sand. She was right. I'd been the family doormat too long. By the time I went to bed in Kira's guest room, I'd made up my mind. I was changing the locks, upgrading my security, and letting my family deal with the fallout. The next morning, I called Zane Cutler, a locksmith Kira recommended. I explained the situation, and he didn't bat an eye. Family drama's my bread and butter, he said. I can swap out all your locks and install a smart system by tomorrow. Fingerprint access, remote monitoring, the works. Nobody gets in without your say-so. I booked him for a rush job. Then I called a storage company to rent a unit for my valuables. My laptop, some jewelry, a few signed contracts from Pennywise's early days. I wasn't worried about my furniture, but I didn't trust a bunch of strangers poking around my personal stuff. I texted my assistant Nora to say I'd be working remotely for a few days due to a personal matter. She didn't pry, just said she'd handle things. That afternoon I went back to my penthouse to pack. My phone was blowing up with texts from my mom. Lila, Freya says you told her to leave. Why are you being so difficult? The gala's in 2 days. We need you to cooperate. I ignored her. Then Declan called. I almost didn't answer, but I was too mad to stay quiet. What's your problem? He said, not even pretending to be nice. Mom and Dad are stressed out and you're making it worse. It's just a party, I snapped. It's my home, Declan. You don't get to use it because you want to impress some rich people. Nobody asked me. He laughed, this smug chuckle that made my skin crawl. Come on, Lila. You're not even using that place. Tessa's got everything planned. The Sterlings are expecting a show. Don't screw this up for us. I hung up my hands, shaking. Screw it up, oh, I was about to. While I was packing, I found an old email from my dad sent years ago when they borrowed that $15,000. I opened it and there was a line I'd forgotten. This will help us secure a deal with the Sterlings. It's for the family. The Sterlings. The same people they were trying to impress now. I dug deeper and found a forwarded message from my mom to Declan sent last week. It was about the gala, and it mentioned a verbal agreement with the Sterlings to pitch a joint venture using my penthouse as proof of the Everett family's assets. Assets? My home wasn't their bargaining chip. They were lying to the Sterlings, acting like they owned what was mine. That was the moment I knew I wasn't just stopping a party, I was exposing their whole game. The next day, Zane and his team showed up at my penthouse. They worked fast, replacing every lock and installing a new security system with cameras I could monitor from my phone. Zane walked me through the app, showing me how to lock or unlock doors remotely and get alerts for any movement. Nobody's getting in unless you want them to, he said, handing me a new key fob. I paid him extra for the speed and headed to Kira's, my SUV loaded with boxes for storage. That evening, my phone pinged with another security alert. I opened the app and saw Freya at my door again, this time with a catering team trying the old key. I hit the intercom. Freya, I told you there's no gala here. Leave. She looked flustered. muttered something about Marlowe's instructions, and they left. The day of the gala. I woke up at Kira's, my stomach in knots, but my head clear. I opened my security app and watched the chaos unfold. By 9 a.m., a catering van pulled up, followed by a florist truck with huge arrangements. Delivery guys milled around my building's entrance looking confused when they couldn't get in. At 10:15, Tessa's Range Rover screeched to a stop. She stormed to my door, banging on it, her face red. My parents' car pulled up right after. I turned up the volume on my app. "Lila, open this door," my mom shouted. "This is ridiculous." My dad pounded on it, yelling, "We know you're in there." I wasn't, but they didn't know that. Then Declan showed up and things got heated. I watched him argue with Tessa, who was on her phone, probably trying to call me. My phone was blowing up with their calls, but I'd blocked their numbers after Declan's last text. At 11 a.m., Freya approached my parents, looking panicked. "We need to set up now. The Sterlings are arriving in 3 hours." My mom turned to Declan. She changed the locks. "I told you she was being difficult." Declan marched to the door and shouted, "Lila, you're ruining everything. The Sterlings are our last shot." I felt a surge of satisfaction watching them unravel, but then my phone pinged with a text from Sienna. "Lila, Declan's freaking out. He's telling people you're jealous and trying to sabotage the family. I'm on your side, but heads up, they're not giving up." I stared at the message, my resolve hardening. They could scream all they wanted. I wasn't opening that door. Sienna's text about Declan badmouthing me was the last straw, sitting there on my phone, while I watched my family lose it outside my locked penthouse on my security app. They thought they could bully me into opening the door, but I'd changed the locks and wasn't backing down. The gala was falling apart, caterers packing up, guests showing up to a locked building, my parents and Declan scrambling to save face. I felt this mix of satisfaction and dread, knowing I'd just blown up their plans. But the fallout was coming, and it hit harder than I expected, forcing me to face my family in a way I never had before. By noon, the street outside my penthouse was a mess. My app showed delivery trucks pulling away, guests in fancy suits milling around confused, and my parents huddled with Freya, the event planner, looking desperate. Tessa was on her phone, probably posting damage control on Instagram, while Declan paced, yelling at someone on his cell. Then the Sterling's black SUV rolled up and I held my breath. Even through the grainy camera feed, I could see their faces, stone-cold disappointment as Declan rushed over, gesturing wildly. My mom was practically begging, her hands clasped, but the Sterlings didn't stick around. They got back in their car and left. I should have felt triumphant, but part of me felt sick knowing how deep this cut my family. Still, they'd brought it on themselves. My phone was silent for hours after that, which was worse than the barrage of calls I'd expected. I stayed at Kira's trying to focus on work, but I kept checking the security app, half expecting my dad to show up with a crowbar. Around 6 p.m., I got a text from Tessa, of all people. "Lila, I need to talk. Can we meet? I'm sorry." Sorry. Tessa had never apologized to me in the 5 years she'd been married to Declan. I didn't trust it, but I was curious, so I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near Kira's. Kira wasn't thrilled. "Be careful," she said. "She's probably trying to guilt-trip you." I nodded, but I had to know what she wanted. Tessa was already there when I walked in, sitting at a corner table, no makeup, her usual influencer glow gone. She looked up nervous and pushed a coffee toward me. "Lila, I messed up," she said before I could sit down. "I didn't know your parents hadn't asked you about the gala. They told me you were fine with it." I stared at her, not buying it. "You had a key to my penthouse, Tessa. You tried to let planners in. You posted about my home like it was yours. Don't act like you're innocent." She flinched, then nodded. "You're right. I got caught up in the hype. Declan said it was a family thing, and I thought, I don't know that you'd want to help." Then she dropped a bomb. "There's something else. Your parents. They told the Sterlings your penthouse was part of the family's portfolio. They showed them some document, like a deed, saying it was tied to their company." My heart stopped. What document? I own that penthouse. It's in my name. Tessa looked away, her voice low. I don't know the details, but Declan mentioned they fudged some paperwork to make it look like the family co-owned it. They needed the Sterlings to think they had more assets to secure the deal. I felt like I'd been punched. My parents had faked a deed. To my home, I leaned forward, my voice shaking. Are you telling me they lied about owning my property? Tessa nodded, tears in her eyes. I didn't know until yesterday. I'm so sorry, Lila. I left the coffee shop in a daze, my head spinning. I called Holden, my lawyer friend, and told him everything. If they forged any documents, that's fraud, he said, his voice tight. You need to check your property records and confront them. I can pull some strings to get a copy of anything they might have filed. In the meantime, keep those locks changed. I thanked him, but I was too angry to think straight. I went back to Kira's and spent the night replaying Tessa's words. My parents hadn't just used my penthouse, they'd tried to claim it as theirs. The $15,000 they took years ago was nothing compared to this. The next day, my mom left a voicemail on my work phone, the only number I hadn't blocked. Lila, you've humiliated us. The Sterlings are furious, and Declan's deal is dead. We need to talk. Come to the house tomorrow at noon. I didn't want to go, but I knew I had to face them. Kira insisted on coming with me for backup. You're not walking into that snake pit alone, she said. So at noon, we pulled up to my parents' house. Declan's car was there, along with Tessa's. I took a deep breath and walked in, Kira right behind me. My parents were in the dining room looking like they hadn't slept. Declan was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, and Tessa sat quietly, avoiding my eyes. My mom started first, her voice sharp. Lila, you've gone too far. Changing the locks. Sabotaging the gala. Do you have any idea what you've cost us? I didn't flinch. What I've cost you. You planned a party at my home without asking, gave out keys, and lied to the Sterlings about owning my penthouse. What the hell were you thinking? My dad slammed his hand on the table. Watch your tone. We were trying to save our business. Your penthouse was the only thing impressive enough to get the Sterlings' attention. I laughed bitter and loud. So you faked a deed, told them my home was yours. That's not just wrong. Dad, that's illegal. My mom's face went pale. Who told you that? I looked at Tessa, who shrank in her seat. Doesn't matter. I know. And I'm checking the property records. If you forged anything, you're in deep trouble. Declan stepped forward, his face red. You're blowing this out of proportion. We didn't forge anything, we just stretched the truth to close the deal. I turned on him. Stretch the truth. You used my home, my life, to lie to people. And you have the nerve to call me jealous. My mom started crying, but I wasn't falling for it. Lila, we're your family. We raised you. Doesn't that mean anything? I shook my head. It means you should respect me, not treat my home like your personal asset. I'm done being your doormat. From now on, my penthouse, my rules. If you ever pull something like this again, I'm done with all of you. I walked out, Kira, following, my heart pounding but my head clear. I'd said what I needed to say. As we got in the car, my phone buzzed with a text from Tessa. I told Declan I'm done lying for them. Can we talk again? I want to make this right. I didn't reply, not yet. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew I wasn't alone anymore. Tessa's text was still on my phone, her words about making things right lingering as I drove away from my parents' house, my heart still racing from laying down the law. I'd told them my penthouse was off limits, that I was done being their doormat, but I wasn't sure if they'd really heard me. The gala disaster had shaken them, and Tessa's confession about the faked deed left me reeling. I needed to move forward to reclaim my space and my life, and that meant doing things on my terms. 2 weeks later, I threw a party of my own, and what happened that night showed me my family might actually be changing, or at least starting to. I spent the next few days at Kira's, avoiding my family's calls and texts. My mom sent long, guilt-trippy messages about how I'd torn the family apart, while my dads were short and angry, saying I'd ruined their reputation. Declan's were the worst, accusing me of sabotaging his career out of spite. I didn't respond. Holden, my lawyer friend, confirmed no fake deed had been filed, but my parents had shown the Sterlings a doctored document to hype their pitch. It was a desperate lie, not legally binding, but it still stung. Kira kept me grounded. "You did the right thing," she said. "Now show them who you are." That's when I decided to host a launch party for Pennywise's new feature, a budgeting tool for small businesses. It was my biggest project yet, and I wanted to celebrate it in my penthouse my way. I moved back home, unpacked my valuables from storage, and got to work. I invited my team clients, a few friends, and even some tech influencers who'd supported Pennywise early on. Kira helped plan, insisting on a taco bar and a DJ to keep it fun, not stuffy like my parents' gala. I was nervous but excited, ready to take back my space. The day before the party, my mom called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Lila," she said, her voice softer than usual. "I owe you an apology. We were wrong about the gala, the key everything. Our business was failing and we were desperate. We thought the Sterlings could save us and your penthouse. It was our only shot." I stayed quiet, waiting. "We shouldn't have used you. I'm sorry. It wasn't perfect, but it felt real." "Thanks, Mom," I said. "But things need to change. I'm not your fallback anymore." She agreed, and I hung up, feeling a weight lift. The night of the party, my penthouse was buzzing. My team was mingling, the DJ was playing, and tacos were disappearing fast. Kira was in her element, introducing people, while my cousin Sienna showed up early, hugging me tight. "This is amazing, Lila. You did this all yourself." I smiled, feeling proud for the first time in weeks. Then my parents walked in. I'd invited them, half expecting they wouldn't come, but there they were. Marlo with a small gift bag, Jet looking awkward but trying to smile. "We're proud of you," my mom said, handing me the bag. Inside was a framed photo of me at my college graduation with a note to Lila, who built her own empire. I choked up, not expecting it. My dad cleared his throat. "Your app's doing big things. We should have seen it sooner." It wasn't everything I'd wanted, but it was a start. Then Declan and Tessa arrived. I braced myself, but Tessa came straight to me. "Lila, I meant what I said. I'm done covering for them." She glanced at Declan, who was glaring at the floor. I told him he needs to own up. Declan rolled his eyes. "What do you want?" "Lila, an apology." "Fine, I'm sorry. But you didn't have to ruin everything." I stepped closer, my voice steady. "You don't get it, Declan. You used my home, lied about it, and acted like I owed you. I didn't ruin anything you did." Tessa put a hand on his arm and he stormed off to the bar. She sighed. "He's struggling. The Sterlings dropped him and he's taking it out on everyone. But I'm trying, Lila. I'm starting my own marketing business, no more influencer stuff. Maybe you could give me some tips?" I nodded, surprised but open to it. As the night went on, I noticed my parents talking to my guests. Not about themselves, but about me. My dad was telling a client Lila built Pennywise from scratch, beat out major competitors for this new deal. My mom was showing Sienna's boyfriend my old coding notebooks, laughing about how I'd always been a hustler. It felt strange seeing them acknowledge me, but it also felt right. Later, Kira pulled me aside. "You see that? They're trying. You changed the game, Lila." I smiled, realizing I wasn't just protecting my penthouse. I'd rewritten how my family saw me. The party wound down, and I stood in my living room surrounded by empty plates and laughter. My home was mine again, not just because of the new locks, but because I'd stood up for myself. Things with my family weren't perfect. Declan was still a work in progress, and trust would take time, but we were talking, really talking, for the first time in years. I felt lighter, like I could finally breathe. If you've ever had to set boundaries with family, you know how hard it is. Have you been through something like this? Drop your story in the comments, I'd love to hear it. Hit like if you're all about standing up for yourself and subscribe for more real talk. Thanks for sticking with me through this crazy ride.